Good afternoon and welcome to Foreign Desk on Benue Television. I am Winifred Yusu. On the headlines: Ukrainian drone attack sets oil depot in Russia's southern region of Rostov ablaze. Brazil Supreme Court threatens to ban X. Plus, members of opposition revive protest against Venezuelan president. Vice President of the European Commission, Joseph Borrell, has ramped up pressure on Ukraine supporters to lift restriction on the use of Western weapons inside Russia in advance of a meeting in Brussels of the bloc's foreign and defense ministers. Borrell on Thursday said curbs on the use of weapons against Russian targets needed to be lifted in accordance with international law. He told newsmen that the weaponry being given to Ukraine has to have full use and restrictions have to be lifted for Ukrainians to be able to target places where Russia is bombing them. The Ukrainian Air Force announced on Thursday that it had destroyed 60 of 74 Russian attack drones and 2 out of 5 missiles during an overnight attack. The Air Force said it lost track of 14 of the drones, which have likely fallen on Ukrainian territory. Head of Kiev's military administration, Serhiy Popko, said falling debris damaged windows and caused fire in the residential building, which was later extinguished. Ukraine is pushing its Western allies for additional air defenses and supporting jointly shooting down targets over the country to repel Russia's intense drone attacks. Last month, Ukraine said it needs 25 Patriot air defense systems to defend its airspace. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, who spoke alongside Borrell on Thursday, said allies would have to blame themselves if Russia wins. He added that Ukraine only wants to strike legitimate military targets in Russia. A Ukrainian drone attack has set an oil depot in Russia's southern region of Rostov ablaze. Regional Governor Vasily Golebev confirmed the strike on the Telegram messaging app, saying firefighters extinguished the blaze at the depot in Rostov's Chemsky district with no casualties reported. Russia's Ministry of Defense earlier said air defense units destroyed 4 drones over the region without mentioning the attack on the oil depot. According to the Baza Telegram channel, which is close to Russian security services, 3 tanks were burning at the oil depot after 2 drones fell in the area. Ukraine's strike marked its latest attack on Russian oil and gas facilities in retaliation for attacks on its energy infrastructure. A large fire has been raging at an oil storage facility in Rostov city of Prolextarsk since August 18th after an earlier Ukrainian drone attack some 200 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. At the beginning of the month, another fuel storage depot in the Kamensky district was hit. At the time, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky praised his forces for striking oil facilities in Russia, saying the attack would help bring a just end to the conflict. The Russian ministry also said 8 attack drones were destroyed over the Voronezh region, which borders Ukraine, but gave no details. Governor of Voronezh, Alexander Gusev, said debris from a Ukraine-launched drone over the region sparked a fire near explosive objects, but that there had been no detonation. Russian-born Telegram owner Pavel Durov has been placed under formal investigation after his arrest as part of a probe into organized crime on the social media and messaging app. Durov's detention after he landed in Paris on a private jet has put the spotlight on the criminal liability of app providers and fueled debate on where freedom of speech ends and enforcement of the law begins. French judicial authorities placed Durov, who is a French citizen, under formal investigation for allegedly failing to cooperate with authorities in criminal investigations and aiding and abetting criminal offenses on his messaging app. Paris prosecutor Laure Bacot said in a statement that an investigative judge found there were grounds to formally investigate Durov on all the charges for which he was initially arrested. He said Telegram's near total absence of a response to authorities' requests for cooperation in criminal cases led his office cybercrime unit to open an investigation in February 2024. According to the analyst, being placed under formal investigation in France does not imply guilt or necessarily lead to trial, but indicates that judges consider there is enough to the case to proceed with the probe. Investigations can last years before being sent to trial or shelved. Reacting, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said he hoped that Durov has all the necessary opportunities for his legal defense, adding that Moscow stands ready to provide all necessary assistance and support to the Telegram CEO as a Russian citizen. Let's take a very quick break. We will be back shortly with more stories. Do stay with us. Welcome. United States National Security Advisor NSA Jake Sullivan has held talks with a top Chinese military official, General Zhang Yongxia, in Beijing, wrapping up a 3-day trip aimed at strengthening communication between the world powers on a range of issues. Sullivan met Zhang, who is vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, on Thursday as China is embroiled in security roles with U.S. ties, Japan, and the Philippines. The NSA raised issues such as stability in the Taiwan Strait, U.S. commitments to freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, China's support for Russia's defense industrial base, and ongoing efforts to reach a ceasefire deal in the Gaza Strip. On Taiwan, Zhang warned that the status of the self-ruled island was the first red line that cannot be crossed in China-US relations. He said the independence of Taiwan and peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait were incompatible. He restated China's demand that the U.S. halts what he called military coalition with Taiwan. Sullivan also met Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday, who said China's commitment to the goal of stable, healthy, and sustainable development of China-U.S. relations hasn't changed. Sullivan told Xi that U.S. President Joe Biden was committed to managing the relationship to avoid conflict and looks forward to engaging with him in the coming weeks. Attempts at closer cooperation between the two countries come after China suspended communication between the two militaries after senior U.S. lawmaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in August 2022. Talks were only gradually resumed more than a year later after Xi and Biden met at a summit outside San Francisco last November. A Las Vegas politician, Robert Taylor, has been jailed for life for killing an investigative journalist who wrote critical articles detailing wrongdoing in the department he headed. Clark County prosecutor Steve Wolfson told newsmen that justice has been served. Wolfson stated that today's verdict should send a message that attempts to silence the media or intimidate a journalist will not be tolerated. Taylor's 47 bowed his head as the clerk read the verdict of first-degree murder, which carried a possible life sentence without parole. He was later sentenced to life with a minimum term of 20 years. The 2-week trial had how the veteran Las Vegas Review-Journal reporter had spent months investigating allegations that Taylor oversaw an abusive workplace and had an inappropriate relationship with a member of staff. The article was published in June 2022, a month before an election in which Taylor was running for another term in office. He denied the allegations but lost his re-election bid in the primaries. The jury of 7 women and 5 men heard how an irate Taylor had driven to German's home where he hid in some bushes before launching a fatal knife attack. He denied carrying out the murder, arguing that the police had ignored evidence that other people could have been responsible and that he had been framed. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists (CPJ), 15 media workers have been killed in the United States in connection with their work since 1992. German was the only journalist murdered in the U.S. in 2022 among 69 media workers and journalists killed worldwide. Opponents of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro have taken to the streets in an attempt to revive protests against him as he tightens his grip on power following last month's disputed election. The demonstration in the capital, Caracas, came 1 month after the July 28 vote in which Maduro was declared winner despite protest of opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez and international condemnation that the vote lacked transparency. The latest protest was smaller than previous demonstrations. Opposition leader Mario Machado, who along with Gonzalez went into hiding following the election, re-emerged to attend the recent rally, waving a Venezuelan flag and hugging small children from the back of a truck as supporters shouted freedom. Banned from running against Maduro, the conservative politician crisscrossed the nation for weeks to help elect Gonzalez, a previously little-known former diplomat. Acknowledging the steep challenge of forcing Maduro from power, Machado said the movement she leads will be strategic about calling for additional demonstrations. In weeks of demonstration, the opposition rally cry has been constant but so far ineffective in removing Maduro from power. Maduro's supporters also plan to hold their rallies, pledging to defend his victory against what they claim is an attempt to sow unrest throughout the South American country. According to the human rights group Foro Panel, approximately 1,780 people are being detained as political prisoners in Venezuela. Maduro rose to power after the death of left-wing leader Hugo Chavez in 2013. His tenure has been marred by economic and political crisis, as well as accusations of authoritarianism. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly with more stories. Do stay with us. Welcome. Now, Brazil's Supreme Court has threatened to ban X unless its owner Elon Musk names a legal representative in the Latin American country within 24 hours. Supreme Court Judge Alexandre de Moraes said in an order made public that failure to appoint a legal representative could result in suspension of the social network's activities. The other is the latest development in a month-long feud between Musk and de Moraes, who has led a crackdown on alleged misinformation and disinformation in the nation of more than 200 million people. De Moraes has ordered the suspension of more than 100 X accounts in recent years, including some belonging to supporters of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who lost the 2022 election to Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva after peddling unsubstantiated claims that Brazil's electronic voting machines are prone to fraud. In April, de Moraes accused Musk of waging a disinformation campaign and disrespecting Brazil's sovereignty after the Tesla CEO decided to stop complying with the court orders to block certain X accounts. Musk, a self-acclaimed free speech absolutist, has accused de Moraes of stifling free speech and violating Brazil's constitution. X announced earlier this month it would shut its operations in Brazil, saying de Moraes had threatened one of the company's legal representatives with arrest if he did not comply with his takedown orders. The Supreme Court at the time declined to comment on X's claim. Right-wing allies of Bolsonaro, who was barred from running for office until 2030 by de Moraes and 4 other judges over his claims about electronic voting, have accused the top jurist of stepping beyond his authority to suppress his political foes. A Hong Kong court has found 2 former chief editors of the now defunct pro-democracy news outlet Stand News guilty of sedition in a landmark case that has taken place amid a security crackdown in the China-ruled city. District Court Judge Kwok Wei King announced the verdict on Thursday, declaring former editor-in-chief Chong Pyong-kyun and former acting editor-in-chief Patrick Lam guilty of conspiring to publish seditious publications based on 17 articles. The judge did not immediately hand down a sentence, but the pair could now face a maximum sentence of up to 2 years in prison and a fine of about $640 under a colonial-era sedition law. Recall that Stand News was closed in 2021 after a massive police raid on its office, in which the 2 journalists were arrested along with 5 members of staff. It was one of the city's last media outlets that openly criticized the government amid a crackdown on dissent that followed massive pro-democracy protests in 2019. The sedition case centered on 17 articles, including stories featuring pro-democracy ex-politicians Nathan Law and Ted Hui, who are among a group of overseas-based activists for whom the Hong Kong police have offered bounties in exchange for capture. Stand News was shut down just months after the pro-democracy Apple Daily newspaper, whose jailed founder Jimmy Lai is fighting collusion charges under a sweeping national security law enacted in 2020. Hong Kong was ranked 135 of 180 territories in Reporters Without Borders' latest World Press Freedom Index, down from 80 in 2021. Self-censorship has also become more prominent during the political crackdown on dissent. The Hong Kong government insists the city still enjoys press freedom as guaranteed by its mini-constitution. Bangladesh's interim government, led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, has lifted a ban on the Jamaat al-Islami party that was imposed under an anti-terrorism law. The Ministry of Home Affairs revoked the ban on the country's largest Muslim party, put in place in the last days of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hassani's administration, accusing its members of fomenting unrest during the student uprising that led to her resignation. The party had denied allegations that it stopped violence during the protests, which saw students take a stand against a quota system for government jobs, condemning the ban as illegal, extrajudicial and unconstitutional. Jamaat al-Islami, which has millions of supporters, was banned in 2013 from contesting elections after High Court judges ruled its charter violated the secular constitution of the Muslim majority nation of 170 million people. The party was subsequently excluded from successive elections in 2014, 2018 and in January 2024, when 76-year-old Hasina won her fifth term in widely discredited polls without a credible opposition. Jamaat al-Islami was founded during British colonial rule in 1941, campaigning against the creation of Bangladesh as an independent state during the War of Independence from Pakistan in 1971. Most of the party's senior leaders have been hanged or jailed since 2013, convicted of crimes against humanity, including killings, abductions, and rapes committed in 1971. Bangladesh won independence on December 16, 1971, with the help of neighboring India. That's all we have for you on the news, but before we go, let's take a recap of the top stories. Ukrainian drone attack has set oil depot in Russian southern region of Rostov ablaze. Brazil's Supreme Court has threatened to ban X, and we intimated you that members of opposition have revived protests against Venezuelan president. On behalf of our crew, thanks so much for watching. My name is Winifred. You're so saying keep watching Benue Television.